Alright, in this video I want to talk about abiogenesis and try to go through it quickly because I didn't know people are actually still using this argument. I was recently shown a video of somebody showing how they went on the Atheist Experience. It's an atheist podcast talk show, and they take in callers and whatnot when they ask questions. And somebody was coming on to prove their belief, and one of the things they were saying is that life only comes from life. And these atheists dismissed it and talked about abiogenesis and then just quickly moved on. And I was like, I can't believe that he brought up abiogenesis and started claiming that life only comes from life is an assertion. It's not like a demonstrated fact. And I was just kind of confused. I can't believe that this is actually considered a reasonable, intelligent stance. This is why I generally don't really talk to atheists for the most part, is because they're unreasonable people. There's something distorted within their brain that the logic and reason goes out the window, but they'll talk nonsensically about logic and reason. Right? I follow the science, but as I'm going to show here, science is far from them. Now, abiogenesis was an experiment where they tried to make an atmosphere where they think the earliest life form, right? Now, one of the things they left out was oxygen, right? Because that would have destroyed anything that would have formed. And through striking this concoction with electrical charges to simulate lightning, they were actually able to temporarily form strains of RNA, except it was left-handed RNA, which means it was useless, right? Because you need right-handed RNA to actually start a map to build something, or start a map or directions on how to build something. So by doing this, they temporarily built left-handed RNA that quickly fell apart because of the atmosphere. And if they had oxygen in it, it would have destroyed it as well. So they didn't form life, but what they try to say is that they formed the building blocks of life, that it could have been possible, except it didn't actually happen, right? Because just because you have, let's say you formed some kind of RNA strand, well, it has to be actual legible, right? You actually had to form that RNA in a comprehensive sentence. It couldn't just be gobbledygook, right? It has to make sense. Like, if we go here, we can read that it says external content duckduckgo.com, and then it's a bunch of blah, 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 right? Now, this is a code that the computer recognizes, but it's not actually something that we can recognize as a language, right? So if you create, let's say they created right-hand RNA, it has to be legible. But not only that, something has to be able to read it and understand what it's saying and then build from it. So they didn't create life. They created the wrong side of directions that we don't even know if it formed anything that was actually comprehensible, that would have actually was the building blocks of any kind of information that's in the genome that we see today, right? So abiogenesis isn't something used to prove that life came from non-life. It didn't demonstrate that life came from non-life, right? It showed that they could temporarily build some kind of building blocks, but they don't know if the building blocks were even usable, right? So they end up being quickly destroyed anyway. But what also refutes this is the fact that we have an atmosphere that actually supports life, right? We can actually do the opposite. We can make an atmosphere here that is very conducive to support life, and then see if new life appears. Because if you believe life came from non-life in a very harsh environment, then we should be able to do the same thing in an environment that supports life and have new life come from non-life like that. Right? It should be super easy, but it doesn't happen. Life doesn't come from something not living. That's not scientific. That's speculation. That is imagination. And to say that life only comes from life is an assertion is demonstrable fact. We can say that's how it's always been, that's how it is right now, and we can even predict that's how it's always going to be, that life only comes from something living. Right? Something that's demonstrated and predictable. And we can also do the opposite, that life will never come from something not living. Never has, doesn't happen now, and it will never happen in the future. So we've established a scientific fact that gives us predictable models. Right? To go against that is not in the realm of science anymore. You're not being reasonable, you're not being logical. You're living in speculation and imagination and just want really badly for your belief to be true, so you have to grasp at anything you can to back it up. Your beliefs are not based off of actual science, actual facts, the truth. Right? It's backed by what you want to be true. And that's why talking to atheists is kind of a waste, to be honest. I think with atheists, your best bet is not to waste your time arguing with them. Like now and then you can do what I'm doing here. You can make a video or write something down to actually let out your beliefs and why you believe what you believe. But it doesn't matter if you actually shared this with an atheist. They don't care. Right? So your best bet is to just pray for them and to just be a good example, to shine light. That's all you got to do. And just hope for the best, because you arguing with them isn't going to convert them. And them constantly rejecting the truth and then mocking and scoffing you is just going to wear you down, irritate you, and end up getting you to bark at them and start rolling in the mud with the dogs and the pigs, right? And you're going to look bad. So your best bet is to stay back, and when you feel the need, do something like this. Type it out, write it out, speak it out, why you believe what you believe, and back it up. And if they watch it, they can accept it or reject it. But it's best not to really get into it with them, because just think of it like you're talking to a 5-year-old about 2 + 2 = 4, and they're saying it doesn't, or you can't prove it. That's an assertion. That's just an assertion. You don't know if other numbers could come together and possibly equal 4. You don't know that. You can't. It's an assertion to say that only 2 + 2 = 4. I know that you could do 1 + 3 = 4. So let's just go 1 + 1 = 2, all right? just so I don't have to put my foot in my mouth here. Let's go with only 1 + 1 = 2. We're not getting the fractions. We're not getting the halves. We're only dealing with whole numbers here. Only 1 + 1 = 2. And only positive numbers. We're not going to do negatives or anything weird like that. Positive numbers, only 1 + 1 = 2. That's not an assertion. That's a fact. To say anything else is just to be unreasonable, illogical. And it's, like I said, something a child would do, right? They would argue with you, and they would have fun with it, because they're like, I can't believe that this adult is actually engaging with me and fighting with me when I don't even care. I don't even believe what I'm saying, and they're just having fun with it, right? That's basically how the atheist is. So the best bet is not to really engage with them. It's just live your life and be an example, and rely on the Spirit, because it's not by power or might, but by God's Spirit. So you just got to have faith, you got to pray, and that's about that. But anyway, thanks for watching, and take care.